you can do 1099s for subcontractors, but you got to be careful with that, because if you try to classify an employee as a subcontractor when they're not, that can come back to bite you. We actually represented a whole team of delivery drivers for Dryer's ice cream. They had these delivery drivers that were driving to all of the grocery stores, and they would go in and they would restock all of the shelves with Dryer's ice cream, and then they'd go to the next store and so forth. And they tried to claim these were independent salespeople or something, and it's like, salespeople, they weren't even. They just, okay, there's 4 shelves here, I need to make sure they're full and I'm gone. They weren't selling anything to anyone. And so that was a multi-million-dollar victory for our clients against Dryer's years ago. So even huge companies try to classify employees as independent contractors. I think, Leonard, what's the company that you use on your phone to pick you up in a car?
Lyft, Uber.
Uber, that's it. Yeah. My kids use that all the time. I usually don't, but yeah, they had a major action brought by them, claiming that all these drivers were their employees and not independent contractors and so forth. So it can be really expensive. If it's truly a subcontractor, if you're a general contractor and you're dealing with a plumber, and the plumber's licensed and has his own entity and invoices you and it's by the book, of course, that's no problem. But if you have somebody who's, working for you, showing up at your office, driving one of your trucks, and going out and project managing or something like that, and you want to try and avoid treating them as an employee, obviously it's less expensive to treat them as an independent contractor. So I see why you'd want to do that. But in that situation, I mean, if he brings a later, what can happen is you separate from that employee, and then after the fact, he can sue you, claiming that he was an employee all along, and you treat him as an independent contractor, and therefore he's entitled to all these other benefits and so forth. And then with big companies, they call that a wage and hour claim. We've defended a lot of those, and we've also prosecuted them, but they'll get every employee, as part of a class action and come after you, for the last 3 or 4 years of back wages and overtime. And they'll say that, if you have a retirement plan, that you should have been contributing to the retirement plan on their behalf and so forth. So yeah, that's not a good thing to do. So it's not always clear whether they're an employee or independent contractor. I gave an example of each, but there's a lot of, in the middle, in the gray area. There was a case that came out. It was not favorable for employers. It came out a few years back. But you need to know that case, and you need to know the law, and you have to look at each situation. And I would advise anyone watching or listening here today to, talk to an attorney and make sure you're making the right call, because, the way I look at it, I've been in business, listen, I'm just like you guys. I'm a business owner. And especially when I first started out, any shortcut I could take so that I could reduce my expenses and give myself, most small businesses are, go out of business within 5 years, I think 80% of them. So anything you can do to have more capital and to have more cash flow and so forth, the better your chances. And so everyone does that or did that, when they first started, they had shortcuts. But then what happens is, as you become more successful, you start cleaning everything up.